for no headline about what today's video is about, which is actually about how to stay in the game long enough to make sure that you secure your client's business. I had a little bit of a technical problem as I start again from scratch. So last week we spoke about pricing your coaching practice and creating your income goals and what you need to bring in as a coach in order to fund the kind of lifestyle that you want to lead. Well, it's all very well doing that exercise and those calculations, but if you don't have the sales to back it up, well, So there's a very popular statistic that says that 80% of sales are made between the 5th and the 12th point of contact with a client. And I asked at the end of last week's video if you have the stamina to stay in the game that long, and I want to add a question to it to say, do you have a strategy to back up your stamina? Now, because it's my personal mission to make marketing your coaching practice as easy and stress-free as possible, in the intro to this video, which I'm going to have to go back and create, you will find a link to get a copy of my free guide on how to create an entire month's worth of social media content from just one original piece of work. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Megan Hudson. I'm a business and marketing coach with almost 20 years experience in the coaching industry and 10 years experience in brand marketing and advertising prior to that. I specialize in helping coaches like you find and define your niche, which is one of the best ways, according to Forbes Coaches Council and the ICF, of future-proofing your coaching practice. And I also teach you how to market your practice without spending. Hi Joe, it's great to see you on. Thanks for joining me. So I specialize in teaching you how to market your practice without spending a cent, because when we first start out, let's face it, very few of us actually have an unlimited marketing budget, and we need to establish our coaching practices. So you can learn more about my one-on-one VIP coaching package and my 12-week coaching program if you want to by visiting my website, which is www.nicheintelligence.co.za. But let's get back to this really, really difficult thing of getting clients and making sales. And if 80% of sales are made somewhere between the 5th and the 12th encounter with a new client, and only 10% of people selling their services, so coaches like us, have got the stamina and the strategy to stay in the game, pardon me, I'm guessing that you're here because you desperately need a game plan. And you know, stamina is as much about your mental state of mind, having a strategy, having a game plan, and your emotional state of mind. And it takes an enormous amount of resilience and inner confidence to keep coming back and taking what feels like repeated rejection from clients when they don't buy from you. The statistics also simply highlight what I have said for years, which is that business runs entirely on relationships. If you didn't watch, I did last month, I did 2 videos on the 7 stages in the customer journey, taking the customer from being a brand agnostic, so that's somebody who's never encountered you before and doesn't really know that you exist, to a brand advocate, so that would be someone who would give you word of mouth referrals. So I'm going to remind you there are 7 stages in that journey that have been identified by neuromarketing, and I'm going to remind you about the first 5 stages because I think they're most applicable to what I'm talking about today, which is taking from the client from awareness to purchase. So the first stage is the awareness stage. So this is the first time that you're actually featuring on your client's radar, and it's the stage where we're going to be spending a lot of time on today. In other words, how to get onto your client's radar and how to shift them into the next stage, which is where the information stage, which is where they start asking you for information. And from the information stage, we then want to shift them into the inquiry stage, which leads to the consideration, so considering whether or not to actually do business with you, and finally making that purchase. So we are all looking for clients all the time. And again, in one of my other videos, I quoted Mark Kahn, who he's a top international coach, who said many, many years ago that we are actually all fishing in the same very small pool. So those of us who are looking for corporate clients keep targeting sort of, the top banks, or the top biggest companies on the stock exchange. Even those of us who are looking for one-on-one clients, again, it's a relatively small pool of people who can afford to pay for coaching one-on-one. We also keep hearing the refrain, and increasingly these days, that business is tough, times are tough, it's a rough business environment within which to operate. But as I was considering this refrain, I thought back to when I first started coaching in 2002, and people were actually saying the same things then. They were saying things like the training and development budgets are amongst the first things to be cut during tough times in a corporate environment. So actually, it seems that what we are hearing, what we are telling ourselves, has remained exactly the same for almost 2 decades, and we can either choose to buy into it, or we can choose to believe in the value that we add and can add to our clients, and put our heads down and do what every business has to do, which is market ourselves and build our brands. Sorry for the truth bomb, and I'll get off my soapbox now. So getting back to creating a strategy for how to stay in the game with authenticity, because I think authenticity is important. We don't want to feel, inauthentic, and without feeling like you are actually stalking your potential clients. I mean, some of us in real life don't even see our closest friends and family on a weekly basis. We sometimes don't contact our closest friends and family on a weekly basis. How are we going to manage cultivating a relationship with a complete stranger without coming across as pushy or smarmy? And I was going to knock a particular type of salesperson, but I won't. But I keep getting sidetracked from the strategy. So let me tell you how the process goes. And I'm going to paint a couple of different scenarios so that you can pick and mix what would work for you. So let's take as the beginning of our journey that dreaded cold call, the first contact with our potential client. You've been fortunate enough to break through the overprotective, gatekeeping personal assistant who thinks she's been mandated by the President of the United States to secure your potential client from your sales advances, and you actually get to speak to the decision maker that you're targeting. Now, the scary thing is that up until this point, if you've only been managing to get hold of the PA or the receptionist, and you've been leaving a message, sorry, my dogs are having a little bit of an argument in the background, so please excuse that, my children. But if you've only been managing to speak to the receptionist or the PA personal assistant and leaving a message with this gatekeeper, there's a horrifying statistic that says only 9% of C-suite executives actually return your calls when you leave messages for them. So again, that personal assistant, that receptionist is another person that it's really important that you build some kind of a relationship with, but more on that for another day. And don't forget that a company called HubSpot that does quite a lot of research into the sales process has estimated that in a corporate environment, by the time the final purchase decision is made, it has gone through anything up to 7 people for the decision-making process and to get the go-ahead. I mean, we're talking, let's do the figures. So if you've got to go through 7 people to actually get the decision made to secure your services as a coach, and you've got to have between 5 to 12 points of contact, that's like 85 forms of contact that you need to have in your basket. It's quite overwhelming and it could be overpowering. So let's see what we can do to actually put a strategy in place and give you some tools so that you can build some kind of a process that you can follow to create these relationships. So yes, selling your services is not for sissies, but I'm afraid it's what you signed up for when you first decided to go into business for yourself. And it's part of the package deal, because without making those sales, you're just indulging in a glorified hobby. So we get on to the first call, and hopefully it ends well. The very next things that you need to do, very next two things that you need to do are to connect with this person via LinkedIn and send them a personalized message. So in other words, when you connect with them, you say, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn, and just remind them of the fact that they had the conversation with you earlier, so that you're coming in a little bit warm. And secondly, you want to send an email very quickly summarizing the content of your conversation and some of the points that you may have discussed with the person. I know a coach who, every time he meets a person for the first time, and it's almost without exception, whether it's at a networking event or something similar, the minute he walks away from his conversation with that person, he has his cell phone out and he's searching for your profile on LinkedIn, and he's making a connection with you. He has got such a wide network on LinkedIn, and we know from the statistics, from research that's been done with coaching clients, that LinkedIn, after word of mouth referrals, is the primary place that they go to search for coaches. So LinkedIn is something that it's very wise to use. At this point, you want to have something else up your sleeve. So maybe a nice little visual infographic that you can send a day or so later to follow up on your original email, that says something along the lines of, people who receive coaching achieve A, B, and C. They change in X, Y, Z ways, and research shows that coaching does three different things with people who receive it. A day or so later, you might want to try and call your potential clients again. And if they're available and you get through to them, you can now ask if they had a look at your infographic and whether they will be interested in knowing more about how you in particular can help them overcome whatever their challenges are. Perhaps ask them if there was anything in the infographic that stood out for them. And if they wanted to challenge or discuss the figures. You could ask them which of the areas highlighted, were highlighted in the infographic, and perhaps which of those areas relate to areas in their organization that are most problematic for them. So at this point, we have only just reached our contact point number 5. So we've only just tipped over into that 10% of people who still have that kind of staying power in the whole sales process. You're down into the last 10%. And we still possibly have another 7 points of contact to go before this potential client is prepared to reach out to us for information, which would mean that they would have moved into the second stage of the customer journey. And I just want to welcome everybody else who has joined us. I can see Riaz, I can see Nogokanya, Delia, and Bernard. Lovely to have you all online. Thank you. So I was actually on a group coaching call earlier today, and one of the newer members of the group admitted that she had been lurking on this coach's Facebook group for about 2 years. She'd been receiving all of the coaches' newsletters, participating, excuse my, throw something at them. Participating in, receiving all of these coaches' newsletters, participating in her online challenges, gaining enormous value from her over the years, 2 years, watching her live broadcasts and so on, before finally taking the plunge and signing up for her group coaching program. So it shows that we can never give up, and it highlights the importance of consistency of contact. I can give you some personal examples where coaching clients have contacted me after observing me and interacting with me for a little while on social media, and both have said that because of my video content, something similar to this, by the time they've contacted me, they feel like they actually know me and have a relationship with me. One of the people even said that she realized that she had a specific problem. When she realized she had a specific problem with something in her business, she knew that I was the person that she wanted to work with on this particular problem. And that was simply from having interacted with me virtually. So this is leading me into encouraging all of you to consider video marketing. And I'm now going to bomb you with a whole lot of statistics to try and convince you. I know that some of you are already using video. And Joe, I know that you're using video for your marketing. But if it gives you nightmares, the thought of going in front of a camera, invest in someone to help you. Go on a training program. It's the way that the world is moving, and it's the way that we are consuming content. The other thing is, we also know that only about 5% of people on Facebook, for example, 5% of all the, I think it's something like 2.9 billion people on Facebook are using video to market themselves and their services. Yet video consumption is the preference for how our customers want to get information. And there was a figure of 40% from HubSpot, again, a very reliable source on this kind of information. 40% of people stated that they actually prefer video to consume their content, to learn and get their information, versus email, articles, or written forms, other forms of information. There was another very interesting statistic, if you are aiming at the corporate market, that says that 65% of senior executives report actually navigating to your company website after having watched a video. That's quite a good way of getting a conversion. And to back it up even further, using video in your marketing and sales mix increases your conversions by 86%. And then one more statistic, and I will stop with the stats, I promise you. But again, from HubSpot, if given the choice, 20% of people reported that they would rather read text on a page, while 80% of the 3,400 people polled said that they would prefer to watch video. So I'm afraid that text emails are soon going to become a little bit obsolete and old-fashioned, especially when nowadays we can just quickly pop onto WhatsApp and just upload a video and send it to our clients immediately after a conversation. So I also want you to think about the fact that creating videos for your business means that you are creating business assets that you can use and reuse. Again, on this group coaching call that I was on earlier, the coach had recently posted a link to a video. She thinks she actually recorded that video about 3 years ago, but it was such a good video that it was worth actually getting newer people in her group exposed to it and watching it. So it's a business asset that you can use and reuse. And the infographic that I've given you the link to, the free infographic that I have or will be giving the link to in this video, will show you how one video like the one that you're watching right now can give you a whole month's worth of marketing content. But you can also use your videos with your potential customer as you are migrating them along the customer journey. Let me use another example, and I hope I'm not going to intimidate those of you who haven't considered doing this, but some of us might have done a 5-day challenge at some stage on Facebook. I'm sure a lot of you have seen 5-day challenges. You might have signed up and participated in somebody else's challenge. But for those of you who are watching who have conducted a challenge, that gives you the opportunity to take those videos and whatever other content you create to go with that challenge, it might have been workbooks or something, and turn that into an evergreen email funnel that you can send to a potential client to show them how you tackle and deal with a particular issue or problem. And it really will showcase the way that you work with people. I did a 5-day challenge at the end of last year on how to find and secure coaching clients, which included a whole video on strategy for getting the most mileage out of a chemistry session. And I must admit that when I first started doing video, and that was one of my first video experiences, that 5-day challenge, I was very averse to doing video at the beginning. I had this whole inner thing about how I would look, how I would sound, who would watch my videos, and it's absolute nonsense. You know, I recorded a video, I think it was earlier this year, and on replay, it's now had almost 1,000 views, and it was only created a short while ago. So people want to consume information almost in 3D. They want to have you live and in front of them and animated. They really want to get to know you. But again, that 5-day challenge is the kind of material that I can now package into an evergreen 5-day email funnel and send to people like you who are coaches, who are challenged by the whole sales process. There were 2 videos every day. I had workbooks, practical exercises to build your practice and sales strategy. It was great value, and it's an awesome asset. It gives me 5 more points of contact with you, over and above what you might be watching on these videos. Similarly, I've got a good friend who's a corporate coach who specializes in working with people who are going through some sort of transition. So it could be anything from being promoted to having to deal with divorce, the death of a loved one, becoming a parent for the first time. These are all major transitions, and if they're not managed well, they can impact work performance. And she is building a series of short videos on LinkedIn talking about different transition scenarios and giving pointers on what could be done to deal with them. She's now building a library of fantastic marketing assets that she can email to potential clients to showcase her knowledge and expertise in dealing with these different scenarios. Videos can also be taken and transcribed into blog articles, and there are lots of free transcription services on the internet, and you can also use them as email newsletters. Again, it's another form of sales and marketing, even though we're seeing that fewer and fewer people actually want to read text and they would rather watch the videos. But it's just another form of asset that you can turn your original video, that original business asset, into. And every one of these assets gives you a reason to make contact with your client again, to casually discuss the content, what they might personally have gained from it, what value it might offer in their business, what their perspectives or thoughts were, and in the process get more and more information about what their biggest business challenges are. Or if you're dealing with one-on-one clients, what their biggest challenges are in their personal lives. So I've given you enough ideas for you to actually take things to point of contact number 10. And at this stage, I reckon you would have established enough contact, enough of a relationship, authority and credibility with your potential client, going from a cold client, remember, to make an appointment to meet with your client to discuss their needs and possibly put in a proposal or have a chemistry session. You should have managed to create some level of a relationship with them by now. And the other thing that this repeated contact is doing, which we know from neuroscience, is that it's having the effect of laying down neural pathways in the mind of your potential client, linking you to being the solution to the challenge that they are experiencing. And don't forget, if you have connected with them on LinkedIn, that all the time you need to ensure that you are present and available and showing up on social media. Be visible, get their attention, be noticeable and notice-worthy, and showcase your expertise constantly and consistently. I do want to encourage you, if you didn't watch the 2 videos that I did on the 7 stages in the customer journey, the 7 neuromarketing stages in the customer journey, to go back and watch those videos, which take your customer from being a brand agnostic to being a brand advocate. I will leave the links to them in the intro to this video. Again, apologies for the technical problems that I had at the start, which wiped out the whole introduction and title that I already had. So do just give me a few minutes to get that right. But I'll leave the links at the beginning, along with the link to download my free infographic on how to create a whole month's worth of social media marketing content from something like this video. I hope you can join me. I just want to check there haven't been any questions or comments. Hi Douglas, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining. I will be going live again this time next Thursday. And this time I'm going to be talking about managing your personal and your professional brands and balancing privacy with publicity, because I know that that is another thing that really horrifies many of my coaching clients, the thought of having to put themselves out there more. So please don't forget to join me next Thursday, 5 p.m. South African Standard Time or 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, for practical tips on how to manage these 2 brands. I've loved having you here. Thanks for joining me, and enjoy your weekend, which starts tomorrow. Ciao for now.